I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members. To my left is Ron Merritt. To my far left, Lynn Nesbitt. Our assessor today is Jonathan Spazak, and our secretary today is Katie Sutherland. I'm Marcel Larondo. I'll be chairing. We'll be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit the discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in, and we will then have the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave and the process will repeat each item on the docket today. The session will close after the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, the public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Swear to me, please. Hold on.
I'll swear.
He does not read.
Please state your name.
Jonathan Spacek.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to present is truthful, so help you God?
I swear.
Thank you. State your name.
Sid Story.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Jonathan, when you're ready, first property on the agenda is 1880, it's the amount of assessed value.
Yes, we have a preliminary issue with this property. I am requesting non-compliance. If you look at my first page, I have the recommendation at the bottom. No mailer was sent in for this income year. I will point out this in the back quickly. If we could turn to page 12 of my brief. I have provided the envelope with tracking at the top right, ending in 765 CA. I've again provided the tracking report as well underneath that shows it was signed by Jose S. Gonçalves, which is the registered owner of the property. I've included just a copy of the mailer going forward that was sent out. It's all empty. I will point out that I did look into if the mailer has been sent in before, and it was always sent in before, and it was sent in the year after, so this is a year where it wasn't sent in. And if you have any questions about that request, you can let me know.
Sid, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just one quick question. You said that the 217 is 217 and 218. If you go to page 4 of your brief,
Yeah.
can you explain that again? You said that the before and after were done, but not.
Yeah, I'm just saying the income year of 2017, which we sent out April 12, 2018, was never received, even though the owner got it, but I did look in 16 and before was always sent in and
So
received.
16 was complied.
Yeah, 15
And
was
you didn't, why
supplied.
didn't you show that? Usually do.
Ours automatically comes up to 2 years, that's what always is shown, the 16 is, from my understanding, that's why I let everybody know that it was sent in after and
And
before.
did you say the 218 has been
Yes.
filed or not?
Received, yes,
It received, it was.
Yes. That's why I let everybody know that.
Thank you. So, and I have no arguments to advance at this time on the non-compliance.
So it's not compliance then, you're just gonna go first?
I'll go first anyway. I can go faster.
You're up.
Do you want to do next? No, do you want me to present? I'm not presenting. Wasn't going to present. I'm just
Well, you're gonna present, because if you present first.
Yeah, but I have nothing to present. That's what I'm saying.
So.
We're done the non-compliant.
So you just want us to confirm it? which is-
Yeah,
Okay.
54-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Starting.
and we're gonna agree with the city. Yep. City approval. Thanks, Sid. that was short.
Yeah, besides the honest stuff.
Number 4. That'll be 100-1 Portage Avenue, Winnipeg Gold Axe.
One moment, I will do that. All right, we're looking at the 2020 assessment for roll number 1209-7806-435, address 100-1 Portage Avenue East. This is a unit of offices within the Gold Ice Ball Stadium. I've included some pictures. You know, we have a 2020 assessed value of $1,025,000. The ballpark was built in 1993. We have a leasable area to be assessed at $5,467. If you turn to my page 2, I've included a picture of the ball diamond. You can see where it is, right off of Pioneer, in between Pioneer and the river there. If you haven't been before, you can see on page 3, we have some entrances to the ballpark. And then page 3 is some internal pictures of the actual office space. Page 4, page 5, you can see the quality of office there. It looks like a standard finished office, boardroom, staff area, office space. Page 6, because of the way these properties were split up with roll numbers wise, there was no mailer sent out until 2018, so it's, you know, we don't have a mailer, but what I did include is a copy of the property lease we have from the Winnipeg Gold Eyes roll number itself, so they send in the actual leases in place for this property, so I've included that. You can see Pattison Outdoor Advertising first floor under tenant there, under the clay oven. They started this lease in 2016. It ends in October 31st, 2025. They're leasing 5,500 square feet, and they're paying a monthly rent of $5,010.50. This is actually stepped up before April 1st, 2018. It's sorry. I do have the number, step up to $5,466 a square foot, which works out to they're actually paying $11.92 base rate for the space. That's what the lease for this property is. Page 7 is what our model workup is for this property. So as you can see, on page 7, we have 5,466, so we're just slightly under that 5,500 square feet. And our standard model rent for this property is $13.68, which is slightly above the $11.92 that they're actually paying as of the reference date. We take that 5,466 square feet, we add a standard 5.5% vacancy loss to this property. So we're using 2% expenses a cycle. I will not go in depth on that, as if you can confirm with me, the panel, I've presented for all 3 of you before about our management argument. If you have any questions about it, I will go more in depth to it. I'm not sure if Mr. Story wants me to, I can as well with any questions.
If the board's happy and they've heard of that for this matter, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to the board.
Okay, so again, if you want any more explanation, let me know. I know I've explained it for all of you before, but again, any questions, welcome. Shortfall of $7 per square foot, and overall capitalization rate of 6.55%. Comes to a total of $1,025,000. Page 8, I put together some downtown OFS comparables. So we consider this it's our suburban office title, but we do that for any kind of 3-story and under buildings that don't fall into the classification of Office A, Office B, Office C, Office D, as I'm sure you've all seen before. But so my first 6 comparables on here are OFSs downtown, different sizes, different years. You can see I've added 4 what we consider OFD, and my last 4 comparables is the Curry building there, what we consider OFD, but I consider it comparable office space to OFS as well, similar to what we're looking at in the subject. My rental ranges downtown for OFSs range from $10 to $16.92, so there's a wide range of OFS rents downtown. As you can see from the pictures for this property, it is standard office space. I believe the model's approximately $13 rent is fair using the comparables I've shown here today. It is slightly higher than the actual received by the owner though, so keep note of that. Page 9 is our income workup for the property again, just a summary. Page 10 is our capitalization rate sheet, so again, for this property, you can look 3 down from the top is suburban A OFS. All of ours within the city of Winnipeg, the cycle range between 5.55 and 9.05. if you take out the 20th and 80th percentile of outliers, we're between 6.2 and 7.3% for the city of Winnipeg. This one is at 6.55, so we're kind of in that middle range of what we put out for OFSs. And you can compare them to CBRE and Cushman and Wakefield as well, if you'd like. And there is no mailer for this property, I just did point out the lease actually in place, but if you have any questions about this property, please let me know.
Sid, question?
Shall let you know. Yes, yes, please. Jonathan, you understand that this is just a cash stream, it's just a revenue stream, there's no hard assets supported by the assessment?
Like, what do you mean, like the lease in place is?
It's just a lease, it's a lease on an existing premise.
Yeah.
And the only reason there's a separate roll number is because it's a lease with, it's a sublease to the city of Winnipeg. And
Yes.
because the city of Winnipeg, they have to have their own roll number.
Yeah.
So the ballpark itself
Yeah,
has a roll number.
yes,
The clay oven has a roll number.
yes,
And now Patterson's have a roll number.
yes.
Okay. And you're aware that this space was vacant since, you mentioned 93, it was actually, the ballpark opened in 99.
Okay,
But, I'm dating myself because I was there. And that space was initially designed and approved by the city in their lease to be the residence of the general manager who refused to live under a grandstand. So it never ever leased up for, oh, what did are you aware of any of that information?
I believe Pattison Outdoor Advertising is the first tenant in this space, right? That's what you're
Yes,
saying?
correct,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
There's no
I agree,
floor,
Mr.
it's only
Chairman.
a couple years ago. So it sat vacant for almost 20 years.
Absolutely.
And the, if you go to page 3 of your brief, the picture, you can't see the entrance to Pattison from that, your top picture,
No.
correct?
No,
So it's off to the side
yes,
and it comes right in off of the road. And you'll acknowledge that this is the underside of the grandstand?
yes,
Yeah. And it's been renovated and looks very nice. And there's a bit of an anomaly here. Maybe I'll do my presentation. But the lease with Pattison, on page 6 of your brief, the lease with Pattison runs until October of 25?
that's what this one shows, yes, in my brief.
And the step up was in about February, because it's $11 at the outset, and it stepped up to $11.90, whatever it was, in February of 2018.
It stepped up it stepped up February of 2018,
Yeah.
yes.
So from the time it was negotiated until February of 18, for 2 years, it was at $11 a square foot.
Yes, absolutely.
That was deemed to be market value. Okay.
Excuse me.
And then on page 7, it's the 65.55, it's very difficult to establish a cap rate on something like this because it's a revenue stream. Correct?
Yeah, our cap rate is for the space, like just.
Right, but you have to make an assumption that
That
the
is,
underside of the ballpark is a
Absolutely.
Class C office building.
absolutely, we're just, exactly, just the space that's there as it is, and, you know,
Yeah.
I definitely understand, it's different than most offices, and
Okay.
that is in the ball.
And then we'll go to page 8, and you said it, so I won't spend a lot of time, but what I did is I got your comps, I thought it was an eye test, and I failed.
Yeah, sorry, this is the worst one yet.
But, so I started with the first two, and they're on close proximity, 155 Fort, and one's at $12.13, and the other's at 10. We're suggesting 11 as a market rent. So I didn't go too much further than that, actually, as you looked at it. Well, they're the first two, that kind of supports our position and your position, so it's fine. I'm not gonna go, I've got something on each one of them, but I don't think it's necessary to speak to them.
Is that a question?
No, I'm just saying that I looked at the first two, and the first two were kind of supported both our positions. It's somewhere between $10 and $12. I've used, I'm asking for 11, and you're suggesting 11.92, I believe.
No, he's at 1368.
Oh, 13, oh, sorry. 11.92 is a step up, sorry. Okay, well then, sorry about that, you're right. Okay, and then I did look at the comps, and you'll acknowledge 387 Broadway is a law firm,
Yes, absolutely.
And
It's a one-story brick building on Broadway.
Heritage Building, Heritage.
Heritage, I'm not sure, but it's, again, it's a single-story brick building on
Yeah.
Broadway.
Would that be equal to or superior to?
I would say for office space that you would rent, built in 1936, depending how they finish it on the inside exactly, it's probably pretty similar with the pictures I've shown, I would imagine.
Okay, and 233 Portage, that's the corner of Fort and Portage, is $10.95 is the market rent, and,
$10.95 up to $16 in the Curry building, yes.
yeah. Yeah, there's a number of leases you do.
Yeah. Yeah, two of them are second floor units, the 200 and the 238, so
Okay.
comp 7 and 9 are second floor units.
Yeah.
And then the main floor ones are, in the higher rent, so you can see what, like, the difference, the rent drops a bit when you go to the second floor, like in most
Yeah.
cases.
Okay, those are all I have to say on, I think those are all my questions for now.
Lynn, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Ron?
No, thank you.
It's pretty hard to get comparables for this property, I guess.
Well, I mean, for the actual office space and what it was used
Yeah.
for, it's definitely unique that it's in the ballpark, but as you can see from the pictures of the space, it's like a standard office space.
It's in the ballpark.
Pardon?
It's in the ballpark.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark.
He's missed it.
It's also got 22 trains a day go by and screech their brakes.
The,
Tons of, yeah, absolutely, there's trains nearby, I
This-
do not disagree.
this property hasn't been on the tax roll.
It was, I think it started, I wanna say 2018. 2018 was the first year it was on,
Yeah. For the last corner.
yeah.
So this is a separate roll from the restaurant.
Yeah.
Is there other office space down there as well?
No, I believe this is the only office space being accounted for in the building. And I believe it's the only office space.
It's the only permitted use they have.
Yeah.
So they only have 2 permitted uses. One was a residence for the general manager, and one sports bar. Sports bar became Luzon first and then Clay Oven. And it's limited to 5,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Similarly, the lower level, planned residence would never happen.
I remember all that. On with your presentation, Sid.
I can maybe make this easy. Is it okay if I pass this up around?
I don't see the point, it's last year's decision.
Okay.
It's,
You can talk.
You know,
we can talk about it.
yeah, you can talk to
So
it,
what
and the
happens,
chair's here.
as I was driving here, it dawned on me, geez, we just did this. And in fact, we did it in March of 2019, and the panel was made up by today's chairman as well, and forgot,
I knew you were at it.
and Mr. Therian, and then McFadden. And the assessment at that time was $937 based on city model number, and it was reduced to $674. And the detail is the decision is based on the applicant's evidence using a 7% cap rate and an $11 per square foot rental rate. And so that was what the sup was for, and that was issued in, and that hearing was on March 15th of 2019. So the city, as I'm just getting back to that for a moment, so when the lease was negotiated, the master lease it's called, which includes all the parking lots and the land and everything, with the city of Winnipeg, there was an exemption of property taxes, a refund of some property taxes based on it just being baseball related. But they recognized, the city, when the lease was drawn, that there would have to be some amenities in there. So they did allow the lower level, under the grandstand, to be converted to residence for the general manager, and he didn't agree, he wanted to live there. So it sat vacant for many years. And finally, the Patterson Group took it as a sales office. They sell outdoor advertising and whatnot. It's got its limitations. If there's a ball game on, parking is at a premium. But the lease kind of captures it. The $11 a square foot that was negotiated kind of captures it. There is a step up in there, and the step up is kind of, and so if we go to page 5 of our brief, again, we're not going to ask you to spend a lot of time on the 5% because this is just a revenue stream. There isn't anybody who has non-recoverables. It's just it's a tenant, basically, a tenancy. So we're suggesting $11 a square foot. We believe that's as high as one would expect to get on this type of property. The buildings you mentioned were, the first one on 4th Street that was at 10 and $11, averaging 11. It was a remodeled building. It's easier access to parking, I believe, and it probably is a $10 to $11 building. I think this is a $10 to $11 space. There was one other tenant in there, and he was there for 3 years, and he ran a pseudo-professional practice out of there, and that was me. And I left, part of the reason I left is I didn't get to the trains. But that's not an issue today. We're going to get tired of the noise and all that. So I respectfully submit that the $11 is a reasonable market rent for this type of atypical space. I'm using standard vacancy for what would probably be more real, more retail related. So hard to tell what it is. Expenses $375 shortfall, and I'm suggesting a cap rate of 7.5%. It was acknowledged that the previous ruling at 7% last time we did this, and now I'm asking 7.5%. And there's a bit of an anomaly here, and I don't know how the board, you can interpret it any way you want. But the Winnipeg Gold Eyes have the sublease with Patterson Outdoor until October of 2025, but they only have a lease that goes to January of 2024. So they can't, think somebody has to, some consideration has to be given either in cap rate or in the market rate, but there's almost a presumption that the lease, the master lease will be renewed. And I'm not sure what happens if it isn't renewed, if the ballpark can't provide the space under that sublet. But that's just an issue. You'll see it in your brief, the reference to the start and finish date of the lease. Give you the page. Yeah, that's on your page, Jonathan, that's on your page 6. And you can see the Patterson Outdoor lease starts March 1st of 16 and goes to October 31 of 2025. And they're in negotiation right now, as a matter of fact, on a renewal for 2024. Because when the ballpark is in its last 5 years of lease, everything done at the site in terms of any kind of repair, major repairs or renovations, have to be approved by the city of Winnipeg because they refund the tenant pro rata, whatever's unadvertised, if the lease isn't renewed. So that's a bit of an anomaly that should be recognized someday. Thank you. So I respectfully submit that the assessment be I'll take the 5% out of it. Sorry. 665.47. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, please, just a few. Well, let's go to your page 5, your work up here. I have a few questions about it. We're looking at the reference date of April 1st, 2018, correct? That's what this work,
yes,
this is
correct.
this market value, okay.
Yeah.
So you're using 5,000 square feet, but the lease I've provided has 5,500 square feet. Why are you using 5,000 instead of 5,500?
Let me check, that's a good point. Let's see what it was last year.
5,500.
Where is it? Patterson. Oh yeah, 5,500 square feet, yes, correct, sorry, we have 5,000.
Okay, and so so you're fine with the 5,500.
It appears
we're
to-
using, our model is using, we're just under that, but we, again, we're right around there. I'll move to rental rate. The rental rate, you're using $11. If you turn to your page 11,
Mhm.
we can agree that as of February 2018,
Mhm.
the rental rate up from approximately $10.90
Well, there-
up
it
to it went up to $11.92.
Yeah, it was
right? So-
negotiated at $11 between, I was involved in some of the early negotiations, it was $11 a square foot.
Again, well, okay, so
And I believe that's what, sorry.
okay, so they're reporting $5,466 a month, which works out to they're receiving $11.92 a square foot. Why
After
wouldn't
rent.
you use the actual $11.92 for this if you're using actuals?
Because we're not using actuals, we're
Okay.
using the lease, but the market rent. is the
Okay,
term.
so you're
And
going
I'm
below
by
what they're
memory.
actually receiving.
I'm going by memory, but I think that we had a lot of trouble determining whether whose was at arm's length, and I believe 11 was already was established there.
Okay, again, I'm just going off what you've provided in your
Yeah,
evidence
yeah.
for what they're actually receiving. So again, okay, you're using your market, the actual is higher, okay?
Yeah.
Vacancy, you're using 6%. You said you're going with our standard parameters. Our standard parameter for OFS is 5.5%.
For office, but as I indicated, has more, when this thing was done, we thought it had more of a retail connotation.
Okay.
It didn't. It's not really
Okay,
an
so-
office
okay.
space, and
So you're going up
retail
from-
would be 6%.
Thank you, so you're going up from our vacancy. You're using 2% structural, 0% non-recoverables, and then the capitalization, you said you're using 7.5, but you presented the order from last cycle, and the order went with 7% with an $11 per square foot rental rate.
Correct, and I think the cap rate should go up as you come to the end of the lease, because there's no end of the lease.
Okay, and the end of the lease is in 2025, which is, or 2024?
Year after the master lease.
2025, so that's 7 years from our reference date, that's,
Yeah, the only thing is, they only have a lease that runs until January of 2024.
for sure, and we're not supposed to look past April 1st. I know somebody who bought this building,
Oh,
we
but
know when
it's-
the lease runs out, so we can talk about it, I guess,
Yeah.
but again,
It's a
we're,
very unique situation.
Okay.
It's atypical space in an atypical building, and you have to make some assumptions, and I think the ones we're offering are reasonable.
okay, so if the board was going to use your work up here, it'd have to adjust for the square footage, at least add 500 square feet.
If they choose to,
Okay,
yeah. What
absolutely.
happened is when when the initial negotiations on this space were happening, and I was involved in them, they were still dealing with concrete, or with a mud floor, didn't even have a floor in it. So that's maybe where we got the 5 versus 5,500 square feet.
Okay, thank you, and that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Ron? No, thank you. Lynn?
No, I was gonna ask about the leasable area, so that's covered off, and I was
Alright.
going to ask about the cap rate, and Mr. Story addressed that too, and the lease, so those are my questions.
Not much more there.
I'm glad you got the answer on the square footage, because I'm still not sure. Are we dealing with 5,000 or 5,500?
5,500, well,
5,500.
54, I think Sid will be okay with the
54.60.
54.
But then when you divide the
67.
divide that into the 5,050, they're paying 5,050, are they not, prior to the bump up?
No, it's,
Nope.
the square footage is 5,500 that I've shown on there.
No, that's square footage, yes, I know, but what is
That,
the,
that gives you that $60,000 of income for the year.
yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, whatever it shows in mine for square footage we're talking about.
Well, you're showing 74,000, but using their numbers with the actual, it's 60,000, isn't it?
For what, 60,000 for what, sorry, what page?
The monthly rent was 5,000 on your page. 5,010.
Yeah, that's the old one, that's before the step up, but Mr. Story, if you look at his page,
Yeah.
like I showed page 11, I believe,
What
you can see the actual income as of the reference date, it went up to 5,466.
5, 4,
Right,
6.
look at page 11,
His page 11.
yeah, mine is before the step up, the information we had, and Mr. Story's presented the step up lease, which shows from January to February of 18 on page
There's only
11.
one lease, we put these in, this is
Yeah.
a total lease,
Yeah,
yeah.
And it comes up to 65,000 then.
yeah, so well, if you go, give or take, yeah, so you go
65, 136.
4, 6 times 12, yeah, 65,592.
Why does it show 65, 136? No, because it shows January as a 5,000.
And then you see if you go over to February, that's where the jump up is, and we're
Yeah.
April 1st, 18 reference date, so
Yeah, April 1st,
that's where the 1192 comes from.
it's 65. And Sid, you talked a little bit about the cap rate. Talk to me a little more here. Why 7.5? You had 7 before.
Yes.
What's
Well,
changed that's brought it to 7.5?
the only thing that's changed is that we're another 2 years closer to the end of the lease. And we have that problem, potential problem coming up that if they don't renew the major lease, whoever comes in, well, that lease is gone, I presume their lease would be gone.
Shouldn't we look at that at that time?
Well, you'll be looking at that time too, I presume. But it's just something that affects the
Like right now,
stability
we're,
of the cash flow, because really all we're doing is we're trying to determine what the cash flow is,
Yeah.
so there's no hard asset other than just a lease.
it's a hard one to come up with a cap rate.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just trying to see why you brought it up, if you're only using that as your reason without any other evidence.
Well, we looked at it last year going in, that was a cap rate I believe we used on clay oven,
Yeah.
on first and whatnot. And so we carried forward with that. But as you get nearer, we think that cash stream becomes more risky, because this is a year or more that may not be acknowledged by the landlord, the owner of the building. Nobody knows how that's gonna be handled when it gets there. But the leases are not to the same, to justify the build-up, they needed 5 years. Patterson, I guess, wanted 5 years. And that meant that somebody was prepared to take their chances on the lease not being available to them.
Your vacancy shortfall, you went 6%. You went 6%, the city was going 5.5. Where'd you get your 6% from?
We used the retail, citywide retail.
This is office.
Well, I think it's more retail than office, but it's hard to say. It's in a retail facility. It would be if it were in a multi-tenanted building, and it would, one would probably look at the characteristic of the building. There's no classification for the ballpark in the city property uses and whatnot. So we assumed it's close to retail.
You used $3 on your vacancy shortfall?
No, 5%, on 5,000, 6% is 300,
Well, what's the vacancy shortfall you got here?
375.
375.
Yeah, so 6% of 5,000 square feet is 300.
Yeah.
That 375 is, 375 is 1125.
So I'm good. And everybody's done. Do you want to put any closing statements on that one?
No, I'm fine.
I'm fine too.
Good. Let's move on to the last one.
Okay.
1,700 nets. Correct?
Yep. All right.
When you're ready.
Okay, just one sec, folks. Thank you.
Okay, 1700 Ness Avenue, roll number 07-000-49-0000. This is one block west of, one block west on Ness from Route 90. You can look at my map on page 2 to get a better idea of exactly where it is. Our 2020 assessment is $1,308,000. This is a building built in 1990. It's a one-story building with basement. We have a gross floor area of 9,248 and a leasable area of 7,389. This is over the first floor and the basement. If you look at my page 2, you see a picture. Page 3, see it has a little bit of parking with it. Page 4, they've always complied with our request for information. This property had 2 sales, one July 6, 2015, or September 10th, 2014 for 1.1 million. And then it sold July 6, 2015 for 1.2 million. I've included the sales questionnaire, I'll go over it quickly at the end. This has some subject leases in place, I'll go over on page 13.
Sorry, what was that last thing?
Page 13.
What did you say about page 13?
I just said page 13 is where I have the subject leases.
Oh, okay.
But I'll go over that one. Page 5 is our income workup for this property. This is model generated over that 7,389 square feet. You can see we have 4 premises on it. So 3 of them are what we consider 3.9 or office or basement leasable square footage. And the second one there is our standard office for the main floor of 3,825 square feet. So the large main floor portion is at $14.58 for our standard office. And then the other 3 basement units, ranging from 1,800 square feet down to 800 square feet. You can see the different rental rates there, but the blended rate for this property is $13.22 for both floors of offices. We have a vacancy, standard vacancy loss of 5.5%. We have 2% for our expenses, $7 for shortfall, and a 6.7% cap rate on this building, which brings us to that 1.3 million. Page 6, I've included some comparables for the main floor office space in this area and also some basement rent comparables where we actually have net leases for basement space. So I'll start at the top here. Our OFS rent comparables in the area. If you look at our first 5 rents, these are more single story office units on portage that are as close as possible to the office property. I know our property is on Nest, not directly on portage, but again, just to show you comparable rates that they're getting on portage at the or close to the reference date. We're ranging on portage from $12 up to $16.80. There's a range in there. And then I've included 1700 Ellis Avenue, which is at $13.50 for 3,700 square feet. And then if you look at 1330 Border is just it's off of Dublin there. It's just a long strip of single-story kind of office units or retail units. Again, those rental rates there, all those leases were signed right around the start of 2017, and they're ranging from $12.50 up to $14.50. If you look down, basement rent comparable, so this is basement office space, that's our net leases and reported. My comp 1 and comp 14 are $865 Waverly, these are $12. This is probably, this is very nice basement office space in a newer building. More comparable in my eyes are comp 2 through comp 5, which is $14.83 Pembina. This has similar size windows in the basement and the ranges from $8 to $9 square foot. And if you look down at 1479 Buffalo, comp 9 through 13, we have a range of rents from $8 to $11.75. These are similar basement units, again, Pembina was built in 1969 and Buffalo was built in 1968. These are full floor basement office space with smaller windows at the top. Like they're very similar to our subject property with the smaller windows at the top. Look through those comparables. Our model gives this office a range of, we're at 1142 up to 1222. So we're on the higher end of the comps I've shown you, but take that into account what I said, and if you have any questions, let me know. I will turn to the cap rate now. You turn to page 8. Our same capitalization rate sheet. We are at 6.7% on this building. I went through it before, but for our OFSs in our City of Winnipeg assessments range from 6.2 to 7.3. And we are at 6.7, which is right in the middle, standard ones, right, OFS office building. You turn to page 10. The owner has filled out the leasable area expenses, the net rent coming in. They're receiving a rental income of $127,956. You turn to page 12, there is a profit and loss breakdown for the company that owns it. You can see where he got his income reported from. There are base rents reported, and then there's additional rents reported for each of the units at the top there. They get that, and then they've included all their expenses, repair and maintenance, and the property tax and utilities. Page 13 are the leases that are actually in place in this property. Did have them all written down, but you can look at the main floor pays lease at around $10, the 4,000 square feet. Bayshore Health is paying around $13.50 for their 1,900 square feet. First Nation Health is in the basement, paying approximately $6.50 for that basement space. And then there was a unit in place that was paying approximately, I had it written down, they were receiving about $890 for that basement space, and then for that 860 square feet, and their lease ran out at the end of 2018. I believe it's terminated from that unit.
Which one? I'm sorry.
So for the reported Agoki learning or hearing systems, they were in the lower, and they were paying about $890 a square foot. For
Yeah, they're not there anymore.
No, they're vacant now, but as of the reference, I'm just saying what they're paying.
Okay.
Page 14 is the sales questionnaire from the most recent sale. I will just say, this is a sale for 1.2 million. It's filled out again, you can look through it, but arm's length sale, date of the sale was July 1st. There was no appraisal done on it, it's a full interest sale. Nothing sticks out from this one. Was the property used at the time of sale as an office? Is the attendant used the same? Yes. Was the condition very good? Are you gonna make any major renovations? No. Do you intend to demolish? No. Do you intend to subdivide? No. Page 15, it was a standard mortgage in place, I just have to block it out for privacy reasons. And again, so the income and expense information in the middle there, was all or part of this property tenant occupied at the sale? No. And was the purchase price based on the property's NOI? Yes. Were there any financial details extra to that? No. And it was signed by the owner, the new owner of the property, so from what I can see, it's an arm's length sale. Again, good indicator of property value, but I'm not putting all my weight on that, just including it for extra information if you wanted to know about that sale. That's all my presentation, thank you.
Sid, questions?
Just if I can, when you mentioned signed by the owner, are you talking about the new owner, and is the new owner Jonathan Singh?
Yes,
Okay. You know who the vendor was?
the vendor was the old, so the vendor was, I can say it if you'd like, yes.
You can't what?
I can say it if you'd like, you want me to say the vendor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Susan Boulat and Lydia Boulat.
Okay. And you know that they're tenants, the major tenant in the building?
I believe the
Christy
old,
Bullock?
I believe the old owner was Susan Boulet and Donald Pusty, which was the old
Yeah.
main tenant, or like I believe, I don't know if they're still in
Pusty,
there.
yes, Pusty,
Yes.
Bullock are CAs in the building. Been there for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So it was our arm's length, but they may have been motivated.
Well, there was, the sale before it was for, so if we look at my page, I think I can explain it the best of my understanding,
Yeah,
but if you look at my page 4, we have two sales for this property. September 10th, 2014, the sworn value is $1,100,000. Consideration $550,000.
Just slow down.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll give my page.
Go to page 4.
Page 4?
Yes. There's a September 10th sale, 2014.
Yes. Okay.
So the sworn value is 1.1 million, the consideration was 5.5, exactly half of the price. The original vendor of that sale was, as you said, Susan Boulat and Donald Pusty. So I don't know if there was a divorce involved or if what happened, but you usually, I believe, I had this hearing last time and you mentioned there was a divorce. But it sold for exactly half, 1.1 million, sold to Susan Boulat, right? Then Susan Boulat sold at the next sale, 1.2 million, to Jonathan Singh, and that was an arm's length sale. So I believe that first one may have been motivated, but the second one seems like an arm's length sale to me. But that's how I'm interpreting the information I have.
Okay, thank you. And if we just go through your brief real quickly. Sorry, I'm taking notes on the The page 2 of your brief, that upper picture shows where it's located. It's one, as you indicated, 1 block west of Road 90 on Ness.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And it's well located. There is a bit of an access and egress problem if you're heading west to get into it. Are you aware of that?
Yes, you would have to do a U-turn.
Yeah.
Or turn onto the street just left and turn into the actual lane.
And the other challenge they have, other than access and egress, they claim to me, is that they don't have enough parking. There are no parking for visitors and whatnot. It's limited because usually by staff. So.
Okay, well, if the staff uses all the parking, then yeah, you'd have to park on the street right there.
Okay. And we discussed, when we were doing this file, the Pusty lease was expired. And the owner confirmed to us, that's where we got our $10 a square foot, but they were negotiating at $10 a square foot. Do you have any information in that regard?
What do you mean, the actual lease in place?
The big lease, the main tenant in the building is the accounting firm,
Yes,
and they're at 3,825 square feet at 1458.
yes, that's what the model has for their space.
The model,
Yes,
yeah, but the
absolutely.
actual is 10 and change.
That's what their 15 to 19 leases reported, yes.
Yes. And you're suggesting that the comps you used would probably be the same buildings that are used to develop the model?
I mean, those are some of the net leases that would be used, but we use a lot of OFS. The OFSs are all around the city.
How do you rationalize that Kula Boosty are negotiating for $10? There have been at $10 a square foot, they're negotiating at $10, there's no lease, but the model is $14.50. How do you rationalize that?
That they have a lower lease than market?
Oh, is it?
That you're asking?
No,
Well, no, that's,
lower lease than model, not the market, than model.
well, again, I'm showing a range of rent, and there are ranges of rents. I mean, we could be on the high end on one, but
Yeah.
one lease, I can't always say exactly why it is what it is.
And,
That's why I bring in.
and are we, you're suggesting that the model generates a basement rent on Ness and Queen Street of $12.22 triple net. So that's like $20 a square foot if you had taxes and maintenance and operating costs. Does that seem reasonable?
When I presented mine, I showed the range of rents, and I said we are on the high end. I don't disagree with you that it's a high basement rent that the model is reporting for this property. Economies of scale, very small, bring up the rent, and also we do have some good basement rents, so that apply, we don't have, like, there's not a huge range of basement rents across the city, so.
I've seen more on your 2 pages than I've seen in 30 years doing this. I don't know of many leases signed in basements, and I hardly see them that they're ever a triple net, but that's just my own comment. So the 3,825 square feet, Bullet Pusti, which has been renewed at $10 a square foot, at the reference date was either expired or due to expire, is that correct?
Due to expire in 19, yes.
And it was $10 and change before, now it's $10 again,
Yes,
and so we should take that into consideration when we look at the 1458 model.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And you acknowledge that the 2 basement leases, and I was there today, I was at the building, so I've been in there many, many times, but I haven't seen the lower level tenancy, and I believe that they're quite high. I believe that they're not market, they're model. And let's just, if we can for a minute, go to your page 6. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I just gotta grab some. That's it. Thank you. Oh,
You got more?
no, it's just a bit quick rebuttal to the comps. Maybe a non-issue with the acknowledgement of the model here. Thanks. So just gonna go through here, and I handed the pictures out just to make it a little easier to go through it. The first picture is 2181 Portage Avenue, that's a former CIBC, it's right next to the, one of the stomping grounds of Silver Heights Restaurant, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And they have a lawn in the back because they have diagonal parking on the street. The building, and I used to bank there, so as long as I can remember, 40 years. There's never been any parking necessary there because we provided that diagonal street parking. And that's, that property's at $13 a square foot, and that's main floor property, correct?
Absolutely.
How does that building compare in your opinion? Or have you been in any of these condos?
I haven't been in this one.
Okay.
How does
This is
it
a,
compare? Again, it's a nice one-story office on Portage that I
Yeah.
can see from the outside, built in 1953.
yeah, and on Portage.
Yes,
And no
absolutely.
problems with access or egress,
Yes, no problem.
and no parking problems. And they're getting, your reported rent here is $13 a square foot. If you go to the next page, into page 3, that shows you what they've done. It's been like this as long as I can remember. It's almost park-like at the back behind the bank, and then they have all that diagonal parking, so they don't use much park. I think they might have a little more on that. And then if you go to your next picture, 1818, and this is Anderson, and this was when Anderson moved in 217. That building was completely rebuilt. It's really it's the entire street, and it's more of a retail facilities. It's Anderson Orthopedics. There's an open sign, it's for the public, it's more retail. Are you aware that that's the complete rebuild, that particular building?
I think it's currently being rebuilt?
No, it was in 217. When
No.
Anderson moved from Deer Lodge Hospital into a new retail store and made a big fuss about it, and that was in 217. So the building's been significantly upgraded.
Absolutely. I'm using a lease from 15.
Okay. And if you go to the next page, that's Anderson again, and what they have is at the back of the building, they have about 17 parking stalls, and the back doors, that's on my phone, are all patient drop-off areas, because people go in for limbs and whatnot. So it has parking, ample parking, and no access or egress problems. It's right on Portage, very close to Polo Park. And it has street. And then if you go to the next one, 1901 Portage Avenue, that's Century 21 Cary. And that particular property appears to me to have been significantly renovated. I know there's been a series of tenants in there over the years. Are you familiar with that location at all?
I know where it is. I haven't been in it, no.
Okay. And it has about 30 parking stalls at the back of it. There's a picture back there. That's large parking lot. Okay. Or you see it here. There it is. On the next page, which is 7, you see the Cary is the building on the right side, and all this in the back there's parking. And I did a quick count, and I think we could park 30 cars there. And it's a real estate office, and it's, again, no problems with access or egress, better land to building ratio. And then you got a little squeezed in guy at 2061 Portage, but that's the Assiniboia Chamber of Commerce. And that's right across from City Park, next to Sergeant Sunday, all the hot spots. And that also has parking, not a lot, but parking at the back of the building. And similar challenges, I think, to the subject in parking. And these are in, I didn't do anything with, one is duplicated, the medical clinic on, pardon me, 1644 Dublin. No, wrong one. Waverly's got it, okay. The borders, the 1333 border, which are comp 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're all one-year leases for the most part, so I ignored them. I didn't even address them because one-year leases are generally, based on my experience, at a premium, so I ignored them. And I also find it odd, the nature of those leases in that building. And then 1644 Dublin, I've always considered that an industrial mall. It's kind of a strip. Are you familiar with that property?
Yes.
Yeah. Doesn't really compare to the subject, does it? The subject's a freestanding office.
Absolutely slightly different. I just wanted to show, I used Border to show what it's like, not just, I'm not just using Portage comps, but just to show what it's
Okay.
off of, off of Route 90, off Dublin. What could you get for similar office space, in my opinion?
And I know that two of the three board members sitting here today are familiar with the building at 2000 Portage Avenue. We used to do these hearings there. And that's the St. James Civic Offices. And it's now 26,000 square feet of Métis Child and Service Lockdown Facility. Do you know the building?
I know the building, yes.
Okay, how does that compare to the subject?
It's a much larger building. Again, it was just a net lease on Portage, not, you don't have to take that one into account at $15.
So I should throw it out because it's not, certainly not comparable.
It's not the same type of building, no, but it's again, net lease for office space on Portage.
Yeah. Okay. Remember that, Mr. Chairman? Were you doing hearings in that building, or did you?
No, I don't go back that far, Sid.
I do. Okay, sorry, and we'll move on. Then if we just take a minute to talk about these basements. 865 Waverly, you have a duplicate, it's first and last on your list?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So just ignore one of them, but
Yeah,
that's probably one of the nicest medical offices in the city of Winnipeg. It's right in the corner of Waverly and Sterling Lion.
absolutely.
You'd have to make rather significant comparable adjustments to be able to compare those two, I would suggest.
For the building itself, yes, absolutely.
And that's a basement lease, you're saying, and it's a medical clinic, it's almost a bi-level building. Okay. And then 1483 Pembina is a standard office building, I believe it's the Ackman family who owned it for years, I used to represent that building. Not a freestanding building, multi-tenant, is that correct?
Yes, multi-tenant.
Yeah. 226 Osborne, I represent that was the Red Cross who decided to convert it to condos. It's right on the big fountain, right looking at the ledge.
Nice view, yes.
Long way from comparable to Ness and Queen.
Well, again, like you said, there aren't that many basement ones, so I brought in as many as I could find.
And you know that those basements, what happened is because they couldn't lease it, they had gotten rid of the tenancies to be able to do a conversion.
Yes, they did renovations.
And they did, so they did as a business center. Those bottom leases are to rent an office, but they're all equipped. And the other thing that's important to realize that that particular building at 226 has a large surface parking lot and a large interior parking lot, get indoor parking. 226.
226 is a very nice building, I don't deny it.
Yeah, so it's not really comparable to the subject, and it's at.
Again, we're working with so little basement leases, I'm not trying to say these are directly exactly the same, but I'm
Yeah,
trying
but
to show a range for the panels so they can make their own decision on standard basement space with window on
Yeah,
with portage.
yeah. So the two you've mentioned, and you're assuming that they're triple net, right? Because you say net per square foot.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So you're
Reported
assuming
net.
that they're paying taxes and everything on these basements?
I'm saying that these are reported to us on the mailer as net rent.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're in, the basements are running anywhere from $6 to $9. with
$6
two
to
other
$11 is what's reported, yes,
Yeah.
for 17
Okay.
signed leases.
Yeah, okay. I shan't wear the board anymore. Okay, I think cap rate is really, no, I'm going to address it. I'll pass this out, I don't know if you can see. This is just the buildings that have the basement leases. The board probably has seen enough. Those are my questions, thanks.
Lynn, any questions?
I do have a question. I'm looking at the square footage.
Yes.
In particular. So I'm looking at your page 5 and your page 13
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
And maybe I'm missing something. So in your model,
Yes,
we have 7,389 square feet.
yes.
And then when I look on your page 13 and I add those numbers under leased area,
Yeah,
you get 7,873 square feet, a difference of approximately 500 square feet.
so the only thing I'll say is, if you go to my page 13A, you see how it's blue red and Pusti, and then C it says lower as well? I'm not sure if that 3414 is just the main floor, that's with the basement together. There could be a 400 square foot difference. I would like to confirm with what they're reporting,
Yeah,
and they're saying 7873.
but even when I look at, so you're
Let me
saying.
just confirm here.
Yeah, okay.
So, if you look on there, like, Yeah, like, I admit, for sure you're found, it's not adding up perfectly as if they're accounting for every square footage
Yeah.
of rentable. If
Yeah.
you turn to their page 10, or my page 10,
Okay,
their leasable area reported is 7,873, and we're
okay.
at 7,389. Like, we are
Right.
under, there's a difference,
Of about
we haven't been
500.
in to fix it, we have
Okay.
to go with what the
You're
characteristics
going
we
with
have.
the lowest,
Yeah.
okay. Now, going back to your page 13 then, you did comment on what the actual rents were.
Yes.
And I admit to not being able to catch up with you.
Okay, no
So
problem,
could
no
you
problem.
just tell me what those rents were again?
And you know what, I'll save you time, I'll just, Mr. Story, if you look
Okay.
at his brief,
These are the actual numbers because
at the
the
bottom
owner
of page 5.
reported them.
It just has them worked out, you can see the total and what it's straight, so you just want to clear those instead of me.
Okay, no
Work on
problem.
all.
Then that's wonderful.
Perfect.
Okay, that was my questions, thank you.
Ron, I have none, Mr. Chairman.
I do have a question. When, these are all, they should all be real rents, but if there was an owner that was renting it back to himself, why would they put a higher rent in? What's the benefit to them to do that?
I've never owned a commercial
No.
building, but I imagine a higher book rent, you report that for
Mortgage.
expenditures,
Mortgage.
for, right, for tax purposes, I'm not
Mhm.
sure. Again,
Mortgage.
a true net rent, if there's one on here, let me know, I'll mark it so we don't use it, cause again,
I can't give evidence.
yeah, so, again, I do look if it's reported and, you know,
Okay, but it happens on a number of buildings where the rents end up higher because the guy owns it. But we don't always catch it, do we?
not always, I don't, obviously,
It's difficult.
book rents are tough.
Okay, on to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Page 1 is just a picture of the building from looking at it from yes. Page 2 is your write-up. We'll go right to the panel. The owner of the building is a local businessman, Johnny Singh. He also owns a Greenbrier Inn and other commercial real estate. And he has a very real handle on what his lease rates are and whatnot. And this is what he reported to us as being at the reference date as the actuals. Bayshore Health is on the main floor at $13.50.
Which sheet is that you're dealing with?
Oh, I'm on page
Page
5.
five, okay.
Yeah. We're just going to, so I just wanted to show you that the rent is $10.50 a square foot is the mean. One floor is vacant, it's 376 square feet. We've assumed it's $10.50 as well, because that's what the full ones are. I went there today, and the lower level has the First Nations Health Facility. Bullet Poosti are on the top, on the main floor, on the east end, and Bayshore Health are on the top floor on the west end. So $10.50 is what they're paying in odd buildings like this, and it is an odd building. It's odd because it's dwarfed by 299 Queen Street, a big apartment block. It's got access and egress problems, coupled with the fact that once you get there, through the building, you can't park at the building, you can park on the street if you're lucky. So it's got its own challenges. That's the market rents, $10.50. There's no model that's gonna capture many of these properties that we looked at today. The comps, that model may or may not capture any of them. So I'm suggesting that we take the actual rent, it's reasonable, a cap rate of 7.5%, just based on the fact that it's really geared to an owner-operator almost, but the Poosti Bullet people have been in here for years, they bought it for a while, I believe. So I'm suggesting that the $10.50 be recognized as actual, and at the time, up until a while ago, the Bullet Poosti, who were the single largest tenant, were in overhaul. They've just recently, from what I gather, renewed, and they were negotiating at $10 when we did the briefs. So I think that's where they renewed at, and that's what they were paying before. And that's the main tenant, and it's a CA firm, so they do deal at arm's length. So I think that that's a reasonable amount. So I'm not gonna bore you with any more, and I think that because it is a building with parking difficulties, you've seen essentially all of the comps on Portage Avenue that were provided by the assessor had better access and egress because they're on Portage, better visibility, better exposure, and all of them have parking. some of them have considerable amount of parking. So I respectfully submit the board consider a fair market value if this building were to be offered for sale to be $846,415 as per page 5. Thank you.
Questions?
Just a couple, your work up on page 5 for the assessor, that's for the 2018 assessment, correct?
Previous, yes.
Yes, okay.
You should answer.
So I'd ask that the board look at mine when they're comparing the two.
Mhm.
You put the wrong sheet information from the city on your page 5.
Oh, for the city.
It's just last cycles, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay. Yes, you're right, yes. I'm sorry.
And so did you ask the owner about that sale, Mr. Singh? Like you said, what did you say, he understands the leases, or you said
No, I'm
something
telling
about
you,
his knowledge?
when I asked him what his rent he's collecting,
Yeah.
he would know it to the penny. He's a very
Okay.
detailed professional business person.
Okay. And so my sales questionnaire, he did pay 1.2 million for this property in 2015, right?
It could be, but there was some, there might have been motivation from the Bullet Pusti. They were major tenants, and they appear to have bought it and then sold it to Mr. Singh.
Yeah, okay.
That's the question, I don't know,
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I got the question right.
Yeah.
You're saying that sale where Mr. Singh bought it, or where it was sold by the Pusti women wives?
I'm just asking about the most recent sale where he filled out his questionnaire saying he bought it based on the NOI. It's an arm's length sale, like
Could be,
1.2,
yeah.
usually a good determinant of market value.
Yeah, it would be least fee, of course. I would pay more, I think, if I could get a manageable building like that, leased to a CA firm that's been there for 20 years. I'd pay a little more for the building too. But on the lease fee, you gotta look what the market is, the real market. And that would be as if it were vacant. And if vacant, this is $10 a square foot all day long, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ron?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Lynn?
No questions.
No, we cleared up with the city board. Good.
Okay,
Thank you,
sir.
Sid. Let's shut it down, we'll deal with the matters. Take 5. Maybe 10. 5, please 5.
Thanks, Sean.
Candace.
Yeah, nice to see you, Sid.
Nice to see you.
Have a good one.